Strap in, folks, because the Chinese Revolution, it makes succession look like a polite family brunch. What started as a dream of modernizing China spiraled into decades of bloodshed, betrayal, famine, and ideological rage. It all begins with the Qing dynasty. Picture a 1,000-year-old empire ruled by a child. No, literally, a child. Emperor Puyi was like 5. In 1911, the Chinese had had enough. Enter the Xinhai Revolution. Down with the dynasty, long live the Republic. Leading the charge, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, idealist, revolutionary, professional overthrower of stuff. Problem was, the new Republic of China was about as stable as a one-legged table in an earthquake. What followed was the warlord era, a glorified bar fight that lasted for years. Every province had its own warlord. They had armies and egos. China wasn't a country, it was a collection of mini dictatorships run by guys with swords, rifles, and zero chill. Then came Chiang Kai-shek, ambitious, calculating, kind of a control freak. He took over the Nationalist Party, the Kuomintang KMT, and declared, "I got this." Chiang launched the Northern Expedition, steamrolling warlords and pretending it was all for national unity. Sure, buddy. But there was another player on the board, Mao Zedong and his crew of Marxist fanboys, the Chinese Communist Party. Peasants loved them. Chiang, not so much. In 1927, Chiang snapped. He ordered a purge in Shanghai. Thousands of communists hunted down and killed. It was like Among Us, but way bloodier. The surviving communists retreated to the countryside. There, they started building a rebel empire in the mountains. Guerrilla warfare? Yes. Tax reform? Also yes. And then came the Long March. Mao's forces walked nearly 9,000 kilometers to escape the KMT, through swamps, snow, and enemy fire. Casualties? Like 90%. It was less march and more epic survival horror, but somehow, Mao came out a legend. Now that's some expert-level propaganda. Meanwhile, Japan looked over at its old enemy China and went, "We sense weakness. Let's invade." So in 1937, they did, brutally. The Nanjing Massacre? One of the most horrific events of the 20th century? Over 200,000 dead? Civilians, women, children, slaughtered. The KMT and CCP paused their slap fight to fight Japan. Sort of. They still definitely 100% hated and distrusted each other, but let it slide for a bit to face a bigger foe. For 8 years, China bled. Millions dead, cities in ruins, farms burned, and when Japan finally surrendered in 1945, boom, back to civil war. Mao versus Chiang, communist red versus nationalist blue. It was on. Mao had momentum. His forces were disciplined, motivated, and really good at winning hearts in rural areas. Land reform, free education. Yes, please, said the Chinese people. We will have a bit of that. Chiang's troops, corrupt, tired, and hated by peasants. Also, he was backed by a foreign force, the Americans. This somehow made everything worse in the eyes of the Chinese people. Chiang Kai-shek, who was referred to mockingly as "cash my check" by the U.S. troops, had his effectiveness called into question. City by city, the red tide rolled in. By 1949, Chiang and the nationalists fled to Taiwan, and Mao stood in Beijing, declaring, "The People's Republic of China is born. Cue fireworks, cue parades, cue 40 years of political chaos and mass oppression of people deemed counter-revolutionaries." Mao's new China was not exactly a utopia. First came the Great Leap Forward. The country stumbled forward a step, then barreled backwards. It was a bureaucratic train wreck. Mao forced peasants to make steel in their backyards, instead of purposely designed factories, and made centralized decisions in rice farming in a country that's nearly 10 million square kilometers wide. Result? A famine that killed at least 30 million. This is a side note to any aspiring dictators. Career revolutionaries seldom make good bureaucrats. Get some experienced folks around you if you want to start your own government. Back to it. Then came the Cultural Revolution. Mao, paranoid about losing control, told the youth to go berserk. Schools shut down, teachers beaten, ancient culture co-opted and manipulated to suit the needs of the state. It was like a pretty successful cult, with little red books instead of Kool-Aid. Families torn apart, thousands killed, millions persecuted, all in the name of ideological purity. Mao died in 1976. The country mourned, but also it kinda sighed in relief. Enter Deng Xiaoping. He looked at the wreckage and went, okay, maybe let's do capitalism, but like communist capitalism. Fast forward, and China becomes an economic powerhouse. But the revolution, its scars run deep. Tens of millions dead. Generations uprooted. A country reshaped by blood and ideology. So yeah, the Chinese Revolution. A century-long roller coaster from empire to warlord chaos to ideological purge to global superpower. Victory? Depends who you ask. But one thing's for sure. Nobody came out clean. And everyone paid the price.